All right. So I'm
Okay.
going to redo the whole introduction.
All right.
All right. Hallelujah. Blessed be Yehovah our King. We thank the Most High God once again for life, food, clothing, and shelter. We're here once again to review or to highlight certain parts of Torah portion Tetzaweh, which was done in the previous week, which was done last week. And that will be done by none other than Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. We thank the Most High God for his life, for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, food, clothing, and shelter. How are you, Nasik?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed and thankful. Um, and also, like anything, thank the Creator for allowing me to travel up and down from New York safely and arrive back at this place safely. First of all, I give praises again to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Yitzchak, God of Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And due respect to the platform, I'm on D.C.B channel, the Chief Prince Jeriel, and also the host, Chief Uzael, and to the Princess Chief, brothers and sisters, Cornine, Maureen, the rabbis that be out there. I greet you all in the term of forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. um, I like to first, before I go into Tetzaweh, which is and he commanded, I like to just go back just last time I spoke, because those that might have been following notice I did Torah up in when I was up in New York, briefly. But I want to just highlight something I did as a review in Mishpatim, which is before Torah, and that was in the book of Exodus, the 21st chapter, the 22nd verse. I'm addressing and I believe astute brother comments. I wasn't clear, that he whether he understood my position, or I didn't make myself clear in expressing my position. I'm gonna read where the controversy came at in from the Mishpatim section first before going to Tetzaweh, which was the Exodus, the 21st chapter and the 22nd verse. And it reads, "And if men strive together and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart, and yet no harm follow, he shall be surely fined according as the woman's husband shall lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if any harm follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, stripe for stripe." Now, the first part I focus on, and I just want to make it clear, because some people might misconstrue my position betraying that Torah that Torah supports abortion, which I made it clear that Torah don't support abortion. But in this particular portion here, when the fruit depart, I pointed out that the Torah portion treats the embryo as if it's not a living human being. Had it been a regular baby, it could have been a question, it'd been a statement of murder and life for life. But while the woman is pregnant, and it makes it clear that she's pregnant with child, and the fruit depart, not an early birth, but a miscarriage during this onslaught, whether she got involved or they just bumped into her. So, and I think I'm made clear that if people, bring it to your various congregations and discuss it, that if abortion, would be even a consideration at any time when there's a life in danger of the mother, being the child here is treated as an extension of the mother. And I think I put an analogy: if you had a gangrene or cancer, that you would cut off that particular portion of the body, which is your body, in order to save the rest. So not that I said we supported abortion, but to bring out some very interesting things. And I'm gonna add on this, which I didn't bring out. um, in the Book of Kings, when Solomon exhibited his wisdom, that it was two harlots that came before him, and he one harlot claims that they dwelt together in the inn, and then they both had a baby several days apart, and one harlot who had a baby, her baby died. She overslept it. Now, when she overslept her baby and she died, that the next thing happens is that she takes the living baby and put it under by her and put the dead baby to the other woman. So now they come before the king. That's that famous classic story. I'm not going to go too elaborate too much in the story, but there's a lot of interesting points in there in the story. One of the things is that Solomon said that this one claimed the child is hers. That one say the child is dead, and hers. And when he said, "I will slice the baby in half." Now, was that a rules? We could always discuss that more. And slicing the baby in half, it would still be a dead child. And do you think of that as a life? And he's the king. And then looking at the situation as a lot of questionable things. How do both people sleep? A woman's sleep could tell what another person doing while she sleep. So there's a lot of different things in there. I'm just bringing up different viewpoints, because we just focus on the story about when a woman said, one woman said, slice the baby in half, let it neither be hers or mine. And the other one said, give her the child. And then Solomon said, this is the mother. But we just look at his wisdom being, famous from that point. And I'm just saying that you can have discussions on portions like this here as well, because in Solomon's case, you had an issue where that the actual woman is asleep all the time when her baby is switched. So how she know the other woman smothered her baby, being nobody else is there? How does she know that the woman actually switched it and nobody else came in and switched it? So those questions, they come up. And then how do harlots have babies and then no male figure come in to discuss the matter as well? So it brings a lot of questions to the forefront, but we just, we take the story for one particular angle of saying that Solomon, discovered who is the rightful mother of the child. And my point of bringing that out and relating to this here issue is that the woman in this case is not even asked how she feel about it. I'm sure the judges might do that on the side, but I don't see it from what is written here. And that's what I'm trying to point out. So we could speculate what judges might do. Inquire how the woman feel, what's her psychological problems, and losing this child. Do you think you were able to have another child, or how long you waited for this child, and your husband going to have an exorbitant, price on this man, but yet it's a fine determined by the judges, as well as the husband. And she might say that's not enough. We could speculate on all that. So that's why I said that when we have discussions on different viewpoints in Torah, and that's why I try to bring out different viewpoints in Torah. When I go over a sidra that had already passed, I just say that you have a lot of variables that you could bring out in a discussion because of what is left out and not exactly explained in the verse, the pasuk. So, so for the record, I just want to make clear. I made it clear that Torah doesn't support abortion. All right. So now we're going to this last week's thing, Tetzaweh. Now, Tetzaweh is also last week. We also know that it was also Purim, and Tetzaweh usually comes usually close around Purim time most of the time. And especially when we have a normal year without a leap month, which is the second Adar. So Tetzaweh usually come within the week of Purim. And what is interesting is that just like some people's identity is concealed in Purim. So is the Moses' name is not even specified in this particular sidra, Tetzaweh. And what is also interesting is that Purim, everybody seemed to be somebody that they're not. Mordecai is an Israelite out the tribe of Benjamin. Yet he referred to himself, and everybody else referred to himself as, Yehudah, a Jew, so as most people translate. Haman, the Agagite, traditionally, and with some qualifying references that he's supposed to be an Amalekite, but he's doing it in Persia. And then you got Ahasuerus as a chief who's taught well on that, who also was called Xerxes, and it's said with Xerxes. He happened to be a different individual with mood swings. Sometimes he act one way, sometimes he act another way. And we know he was an alcoholic. And one of the interesting things is that the numerical value for Haman, which is Haman, the enemies of the people of Israel, his numerical value is 95. And Hamalek, the king, when we take those letters, the Hebrew letters, they equal 95. And you try to say, well, what correlation does the king and Haman got in common? Being at 95. Well, you got Haman wanted to destroy people without disclosing the identity of the people to the king. And the king don't even ask what laws they broke and what's the people. He's not carrying himself as a king. He's not taking responsibility as a king. So we focus on Haman as being part of our problem around Purim time, but yet the king himself was behind the scene. He the one gave the seal, the ring, the seal, and the signet. He was given out. He act one way when he's drinking, another way when he's sober, and he deal with affairs of the states in both areas, and tipsy, and then as a part of a sobriety, he deal with affairs of states. So he had these mood swings. Now we get to Tetzaweh. This particular portion here, and you shall command, and we're going to start from the beginning. It starts from Exodus, the 27th chapter, 27th chapter, the 20th verse. But before that, I'm just going to highlight, give a summary. We call, Hasikum, a summary of some of the stuff that's in there. Because I know I'm not going to cover a lot. I'm going to be brief because as we go further on into the Exodus, except for a little excerpt from this week coming up, which is Tetzaweh, with the sin of the golden calf, it's all about the Mishkan, the Tabernacle. And when it takes basically from the 25th chapter to the 40th chapter, with just one little insert in there, all about the Tabernacle, all about the priestly garments, all about the function of the sanctuary itself altogether. Most people will say that seems to be tedious. It seems to be redundant. But when the Creator wants you to build something and give you a design, you cannot be haphazard. Now, Teruma, when he says the last week said to take from me, and he described what he wanted that the people give him. And if I recall correctly, it's basically about maybe 13 different items, gold, silver, purple thread, scarlet thread, blue thread, wood, and other articles, brass, oil. So it's several items that he asked for the people to take, those of the willing heart, and teruma, teruma is like a heave from something that you lift up. So, and he said, take from me those things. Now, Moshe, he had told Pharaoh that everything that we bring from when we leave Egypt, we had to bring because we don't know what we might have to offer up. So hence, the Creator says, this is what I want you to give me. That means somebody in the whole community, everybody in the community has something that they can offer up to the building of the tabernacle. Everyone in the community. And what's unique is that only thing that was equal across the board was the half shekel for males, whether it was rich or whether it was poor. If you was, everybody else, was able to give up something and contribute to the building of the tabernacle. So now, as we get to this particular portion here, last week's portion talks about the extremities of the tabernacle. They talk about certain Torah. And now this week's portion, it focuses more on the priestly garments, the oil, and let me just give you a little highlights. The portion continues with the description of the tabernacle, and begins that began in the preceding portion. It includes commandments to create a near-time, eternal lamp, and also Aaron and his sons are appointed priests, later on ordained to manage the sacrifices offered in a sanctuary. You have description of priestly clothes, ephod for breastplate, robe, tunic, headdress, sash, etc. Aaron's ceremonial ordination as a priest, and instructions for the sorting of the offering and the altar incense. Now, what is interesting is that the altar incense is not even described in the previous one, whereas you have Sidra. We read about the table where the showbread was on. We read about the menorah, but we don't read about the third item in the holy place. The Holy of Holies is the Ark of the Covenant. But this item here, and so if we look at this here, sometimes when we're talking about more internal thing as opposed to the external thing. So when we look at the tabernacle and the Mishkan itself on the outside, that's external holiness, but when we talk about the priestly garments, the incense, stuff like that, that's more internal, something that internal is something that you actually take within yourself. So what is even I find fascinating is that so much detail is given in making this here the tabernacle, and also the clothes that the priest must wear, as well as the items. So when we start off in the 27th chapter, 20th verse, it says, "And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure olive oil, beaten for light, to cause a lamp to burn continually in the tent of meeting, without the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall set it in order to burn from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever throughout the generations on the behalf of the children of Israel." Now, what is fascinating, from evening to morning, it's supposed to be burned. It's supposed to be lit. The light's supposed to be on. But normally, the priest's operations and work is during the daytime. That's something to consider. And then it says that Moses' name is mentioned in every sidra from the time that he was born. In every sidra, Moses' name is mentioned, except for this particular sidra in Tetzaweh. Everything is, and this is it's still, while he's getting this information, he's still upon Mount Sinai the first time after the revelation that was given to him to the whole people at the foot of the mountain when they got the Aseret Hadibro, the 10 matters, the 10 commandments that they commonly call it. So now, when we look further into Moses' name not being mentioned, the only other place where his name may not be mentioned at times is in the book of Devarim. And when you look at the book of Devarim, you say, okay, how do it start off? It start off, and then these are the words of Moses. These are the words that Moses spoke to the children of Israel. So if I'm the speaker, I don't have to say, I, Zurishaddai Nasik, saying so and such and thus and thus and thus. I, Zurishaddai Nasik, am doing so and so and so and so. That would be more egotistic, if anything, at that. So, whereas Moses' name is left out. So now we know when it said the you, which is the second person, the Creator is speaking to Moshe and saying, bring Aaron and his sons closer to him, as we're gonna get to later on. And it's talking about, and it told him that he's supposed to command them, but we don't get to the part where it said bring them near to him. I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. But what's interesting about the olive oil is that why olive oil? Why not grape? Why not lemon oil? Why not some other castor oil? Or just plain crude oil? Why olive oil of all things? And olive oil itself has a unique property, and it reflects Israel. Olives is usually bitter when they start off as a fruit, but they get sweeter as they ripen. Olive happen to be the only fruit that you can actually press naturally as soon as you pull it off the vine, off the tree rather, and crush it where it'll give up its oil. Whereas other fruit, you got to go through a process of heating it up to get the oil. Olive is the only fruit like that. So that's the way you could get cold pressed oil, olive oil, from here. You can't get grapes will not grab up the oil like that. Also, olive itself, you got to put serious work in, and it said, it caused it to be crushed. And the word it used in the Hebrew is kativ. Kativ. It was kaf, tav, kativ. And that word has a numerical value of 480. Basically, 420, 820, let me see, 830, I'll count the yod, kativ, kaf, ta, yod, and ta. So, so when you take the kaf, the ta, yod, and ta, that's 830. So, people notice that number, and they notice also that the first temple lasted for 410 years, second temple lasted for 420 years. So 410, 420 equal 830. And it was beaten down, burnt down. And the olive oil is used to be burnt. So they look at that as some kind of correlation, hindsight correlation. And when we talk about the olive oil itself, olive reflect the children of Israel. We got to sometimes become brought low to bring the best out of us. When we get beat down, when we get down to our lowest point, we tend to emulate the best out of us that comes out of us. So sometimes hard times, trials and tribulations brings a person to a point where he actually could really qualify himself and say, most people like to go around a storm. Most people like to go under the storm. Most people like to say, well, don't let the storm come. But a person that has God in their heart will say, Lord, help me get through the storm. And that's what, so olive oil reflects more of the children of Israel. And it's the only fruit like that, that's used in this, in the menorah. And just like man was the last of creation, but he was the most important part of the creation. And the part of the creation that the Creator actually had but took a personal, endeavor in and breathed the breath of life into him, where he being become the most important part of the whole creation process. The last thing here in dealing with the tabernacle is the this particular section is the oil and the altar, the golden altar incense. And all this is dealing with Aaron himself, and this is something the priests do. So it's preparation for the priest to actually function in it. And when we look at the tabernacle itself, it actually supposed to be a communication spot. That's what it's supposed to be. And how we know whether it's going to work or not. That's why the measurement is so important. And that's why so much details and so much time is taken in the book of Exodus, because the Creator want us to make it, and how we know we're going to make it according to the specification of the Creator without 1 inch off this way or that way. So a lot of times we ride across a bridge every day in our life, going to work, or we look at different buildings, and we never think about the work that's brought into the building. How much, how many bricks was used, how much mortar was used, how they leveled the ground. All we see is the finished product, and a lot of times we don't pay no mind or think about the workman that designed it. But so here the tabernacle is specified where the design is so unique that you have to be focused on it. So now, after we talk about that, and we're going to skip down to the 28th chapter. Yes, first verse.
Exodus chapter 28, first verse. Exodus 28, first verse. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And bring thou near unto thee Aharon thy brother, and his sons with him from among the children of Israel, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar, Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make holy.
All right, before we even get to that. All right, this is what I jumped ahead at before. So now we talk about the oil, being beaten and being made out of olive oil, no any oil, olive oil, and it had to be beaten and pure. And then it tell you that it should be a statute, forever throughout their generations on the behalf of the children of Israel. So unlike in most religions, everybody served the priest. And our way of life, the priests serve us as well as the Creator. That's a difference. Other religions, the priests represent God on earth. And our way of life, according to the scriptures, according to the design that the Creator set up, the priests represent the people to Him. If we're supposed to be a kingdom of priests, as I mentioned earlier, then we're supposed to carry ourselves in a certain manner. So now, and talk about Aaron being and his sons being brought not to the Creator, but to Moshe. And you say, well, shouldn't Moshe help him get closer to the Creator? No, bring them to where Moshe level is. That's why I said, bring them unto you, near unto you. That means that you endow them with that same kind of quality that they could approach me just like you approach me. That's what he's talking about in this particular thing. So it's not just simply bringing them to the Creator. It was told right here, and that's why I can't specify enough that it says, and thou shalt bring near unto thee, not to me, unto himself, Aaron, and they say, thy brother and his sons with them among the children of Israel. All right, and that their services to the Creator. And that's, I find that to give you a quality, though Moshe's name is not mentioned, his greatness is exhibit right here. And that's what's important. That sometimes we look for our name to be mentioned in every episode, because if our name is not mentioned, we don't seem to be that great. But Moshe's name is not mentioned, but yet his greatness is depicted because his brother, who's older than him, and his nephews got to come to the spot where he at in order to minister before the Creator. So Moses is acting like a priest, So his name need not be mentioned because he will not be the priest, but he's going to do the role as a priest in the very beginning. So I think that's something to really, you know, understand the greatness and the height and the level that Moshe was. And that's why sometimes, a lot of times we say Moshe Rabbeinu. And it goes on to the second verse.
Verse 2 reads, "And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for splendor and for beauty. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they make Aaron's garments to sanctify him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office."
All right there. Now, were you people, you know, they had a saying, clothes make a man. Well, not in all cases, but in this case, it does. This is the only real case where clothes make the man. I might wear something that I like from the store, tail it up, hooked up. You know what I mean? I might try to, you know, bust out a few push-ups so it fit right and hang right in the right spots. I might, you know, suck in my stomach, you know what I mean? So it fit, you know what I mean? Get that slender look. And they say, okay, outwardly gotta look good. All right. Clothes really don't define me as much as I define my clothes. But here is, in this case, clothes define Aaron and his sons. Because without those clothes, he cannot minister as a priest. And when Aaron and them is ordained, which we know later on, we're going to see the whole process of their ordination and sanctification to become a priest, that they are born into that system, but they can't function in that system unless they are endowed with their clothes. So now what we find here is that when people have uniforms like a police uniform or a soldier uniform, it means to represent what they are. A lot of policemen can't wear their uniforms off duty too long. They got a certain amount of time that they got to come out the uniform. So here is that Aaron and his sons, that not only Moses supposed to bring them to the height where they're supposed to be ready to be invested on that level, but they had to wear special clothes to even function in that capacity. Now, what I find strange is that Moses acting as a priest, and this thing, doing sacrifices and ordaining them, pouring the oil, as we know later on, and he don't have those clothes on. But Aaron and them must have that clothes on when they start to function in those same capacities. So in this case, like I said, clothes makes the man. And then the Creator said, and so that he can minister and serve. So when brothers always figure it's what's in me, you know, it was in my heart. You know, God knows my heart, so I could dress any kind of way. But yet when they will meet this young lady for the first time, or their parents or their significant other, they would dress well. So when they would go to a big awards dinner or some heavy out a party, they would dress, you know, the best gear. When you come to worship on Shabbat, you're not coming before the people, but you're coming for the Creator. So, and you come, and we always say when we come on Shabbat, we come to serve the Creator. Then if Aaron had to be dressed appropriately to serve him, then we should always be appropriately dressed when we come on Shabbat. And this is a thing that, you know, supports that point, that you just can't look like the run-of-the-mill guy, you know, the lumberjack. You know, you can't look like the brick mason and then talk about, I'm coming to serve and minister before the Creator. You had to look like a real embassy, you know what I mean, that the Creator could send out and can come back properly. So that's why you wear your best. And then they're going to describe and they talk about their clothes that's being made could be exceptional garments, you know, for the priest to really function in. And today, even in, say, in churches, I like to bring that out just a little bit. In the churches, I remember when people used to go to church, when I was looking, they always had talk about their Sunday best. Always said that. When, you know, Xmas come around, you know, the 25th, and they had that service at the church, they wear their best. New Year's come around, that one of the few times that most church members go to church at night, and they wear their best. So, and you know, so I just understand today, our brothers would come and say, it just these brothers down here on, you know, on the Shabbat, they're just gonna read the, you know, the scriptures and they dress any kind of way. But and it gets so far to the left that the children see that and they even dress less. And when you dress a certain way, when you dress up to appear before the Creator, you feel better about yourself. When a person have the clothes on that make them feel good, then they're gonna act a certain way. They're gonna carry themselves a certain way. So, and it says for beauty and splendor, for wonder. So it said you got to look good. You can't look bad. So whether you like the style or not, they say you got to look good before the Creator. You got to make a good presentation. And I'm not saying, and I don't want people to misunderstand when I say, well, you got to dress like, say, like me, you know, culturally dress or something like that. There, you can have a 3-piece suit on, a 2-piece suit, whatever it is, but you look real presentable, like you're going to handle some serious business. Don't even in the court system, a judge put on a robe. You know, he get ready to go up on the bench. He put his robe on. Now he got a suit up under it, but he don't feel like he's really going to be a judge unless he got that robe on. And that gavel, you know, be sitting up there. So, and what's even strange, when people used to graduate from school, they call it, I'm gonna put my cap and gown on. If it's a graduation, if it's nothing, why don't we just come in some sneakers or some, you know, some sweatsuits and everything like that? Nowadays, they put the cap and gown on top of the sweatsuits and all that kind of stuff and just have, you know, maybe some sneakers that look like crossovers. But in my time when you graduated, everybody had to have a suit. And then you had that gown and cap on top of that suit in the summertime. And it'd be hot. You know what I mean? But you have that on there. Because if you didn't have that gown, it feel like, you know, you ain't part of the graduation ceremony. And so it's important how we make our presentation, because people are going to perceive with their eyes first before they understand what's in you. And that's what it is. So you only have one time, you know, to make a first impression. Right. So I think I said enough on that for a moment. So, all right, and then we're gonna skip on down, but we're gonna highlight on some of the stuff. I'm gonna be getting back on some other stuff heavily. Okay. All right, but we're gonna go down to the FR just to speak on that just a little bit. The 6th verse, same
verse
chapter.
6. It reads, "They shall make the ephod of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the skillful workman. And they shall have 2 shoulder pieces joined to the 2 ends thereof, that it may be joined together. And the skillfully woven band which is upon it, wherewith to gird it on, shall be like the work thereof of the same piece, of gold, of blue and purple, and scarlet and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the names of the 6 that remain on the other stone according to their birth. With the work
Okay.
of an engraven stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones according to the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be enclosed in settings of gold. And
Keep going.
thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulder pieces of the ephod to be stones of memorial for the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before Yehovah upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial.
And that's up. So that sounds like he's working for us. Sound like he's serving us. Big difference when we talk about priests and other cultures where people are exploited by the priests. They're exploited by the clergy, where the closer you get to the Creator, the more of a servant you should be to his creatures. And a lot of people don't see that from other perspectives. They look at that more so as a business, in these days and time. But he got to show who he represents, which is us. And he's supposed to show, depict the body of holiness before the Creator for us. And the names of all those tribes, and there's only going to be 12 names, not 13 names. So it won't be an Ephraim and Manasseh up there. It'll be only the actual sons of Yaakov on those stones, which is interesting. When we get to about the stones that goes inside the settings and the breastplate, which they call it breastplate. Let's pick it up from the 17th verse. 17, same chapter.
Verse 17 of the same chapter, it reads, And thou shalt set in its settings of stones 4 rows of stones. A row of carnelian, topaz, smaragd shall be the first row, and the second row of carbuncle.
Right. We know it's going to be 4 rows, 3 in each row. Now, how the rows go? 3 across and maybe 4 down. That seemed like that'd be, make it properly to 4 rows. All right. So, you got 3 one way, going down of 4 rows of 3s. So they give you an idea. And now it's usually according to their birth. Now the stones, the type of some of the terms for some of the stones, we're not really. There's always a debate. What the stone is, how they, what's the name of certain stones today, as opposed to what they was called back then. But we noticed that the tribe of Joseph stone was an onyx, and yet that the actual thing that the names are engraved on is an onyx stone. So Joseph actually has a greater portion and representation, because we know that his stone was the onyx stone. Onyx stones, I think if I'm correct, is one of the hardest stones. Let me see. You got the diamond, then you got the sapphire and the onyx. So it's around up in that bracket right there. So it's a hard stone, and the breastplate had those stones there. Now there's a lot of debate about how they function and what is the Urim and Turim. So I'm not going to focus on that now, because I'm going to get back to it in another time. But it's always a debate and discussion. What are these stones, and what is the light of perfection? And according to scriptures, you got 2 different concepts of that. All right, so I don't want to focus on that now, but I'll be getting back to it, because it covers a lot on the tabernacle and the interior and the garments. So we focus on some of the stuff here in this particular citra. All right, we're gonna skip on down to and what's interesting is that when they talk about threads, purple, blue, and red, it's like a mingled garments. The priests have to be able to work with mingled garments, but some people don't believe that's the mingled garments in that area. But the priests will, but usually, like I said, if it's they tell you about the fine twine linen as a material, the base material, but the stitching work, the dye, the linen itself being one piece, and the stitching work being like a monogram. I had a discussion with one brother, and one of the things that we discussed was whether it was the wool thread, was it wool thread or was it linen thread? And which I know that wool tend to hold color a lot better than linen. We know that cotton tend to bleed a lot quicker in color than usually the wool thread. And plus, if it's supposed to be stitched together, wool would be stronger than linen and hold things together a lot better than linen. So, therefore, if you're going to dye something, the material had to be tough enough to really hold it and hold it intact. And so was the curtains itself being mingled with wool and linen. But and one of the things is they say, okay, I don't see the actual thing written here. And my thing is, we all say the temple was destroyed, the second temple, in 70 CE. 70 CE, and the temple was functioning. They know what the priests wore. They know what he looked like. They dug up tzitzios from the Bar Kokhba rebellion, which is around 135 CE circular. It's close around that same time, all right? Which is after the destruction of the temple. So they had to know exactly what materials this was and that was. And so therefore, those are my references, that I use. But like I said, you can always discuss it a little further. And it goes on to say that the 30th verse, let's pick up from the
Exodus
29, 29. No, just pick it up from the 29.
Verse 29. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in unto the holy place for a memorial before Yehovah continually. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment, the Urim and the Tumim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before Yehovah. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before Yehovah continually.
All right, now the Urim and Tumim, we're not sure what it is, whether it's two little sticks they put in there or what, or they're talking about the actual stones that's on the breastplate that would light up if you ask the proper questions. It's almost like, you got to ask the question a certain way, right? Yes or no type questions, maybe. But or they might say with the priest, when he asked certain things or address it, certain questions, that he would get a prophetic vision. There's always a debate about how it actually operate, but the Urim and Thummim is described as something that you put in the ephod, and it's also described in one spot, like here, later on as we read, that is actually part of it. All right, so I just want to bring that out now. Let's go the 31st verse. Let's go through that just a little bit.
Verse 31, it reads, And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and it shall have a hole for the head in the midst thereof. It shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a coat of mail, that it be not rent. And upon the skirts of it thou shalt make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the skirts thereof, and bells of gold between them round about.
Okay,
and
no,
a gold,
that's good.
a golden bell and a pomegranate, upon the skirts of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and the sound thereof shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before Yehovah, when he cometh out, that he die not.
Okay, now this is strange. Now, you got to ask this question. Do he need to make the sound with the bells on the bottom of his garments when he go in the holy place so that the creator would notice, because he could sneak up on the creator? Or is he making the sound for those people, the other attendants that's near there, but that not in the holy place, that say he's still alive and he's moving and kicking? I'll just throw these things out for discussion, not so much to, give, all the answers to it, because it's like one view you might think, oh, the creator might not be awake, or he might have, had his head turned another direction and missed something, and something slipped by him. And he had to have an alarm clock that somebody, or a burglar alarm that somebody entered the house. So these are things I bring out that, that, for discussion purposes also. And also that another point I like to bring out is that when a priest have all, the high priest, basically I'm gonna focus on, when he have all this stuff on, this ain't no lightweight garment. This is heavyweight. So he's pretty much armored down. See, he walking around looking good, but almost in a heavy suit with all that weight on him, with a different article called garments on, and he's sprinkling blood with the same kind of stuff on. He lighting incense, with the same stuff on. He tending to the menorah with that same stuff on. So he's moving around with this heavy stuff on, and he cannot miss a beat. He can't talk by slip. Can't say I can't raise my arm up now because this just too heavy. I need to take this off. Only time you wear the linen garment, the all pure white linen that I read about, is when you go into the Holy Holies once a year, or when the priests take out ashes. That's it. All the other time, you got that heavy stuff on, and he got to watch his step. And they bring out different things in reference to why this is on this spot and that is on the next spot, which I'll bring out maybe next time. But let's skip on to the last portion I'm going to bring in today. Let's skip all the way over to the 30th chapter.
Chapter 30?
Yes, chapter 30.
All right. From the top?
From the top. It's only 10 verses, and that concludes it. Yes.
All right, so we are in Exodus chapter 30, verse 1. And thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of acacia wood shalt thou make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 squares shall it be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of one piece with it. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, the top thereof and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof. And thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about, and 2 golden rings shalt thou make for it under the crown thereof, upon the 2 ribs thereof. Upon the 2 sides of it shalt thou make them, and they shall be for places for staves wherewith to bear it. And thou shalt make the staves of acacia wood, overlay them with gold, and thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the ark cover that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee.
Stop it there before we get to 7 first. All right, before we finish the last 3. All right, so we know that the menorah in the holy place, because the actual tabernacle is actually 2 parts, and then you got the actual boundaries outside. So in between the tabernacle and the boundaries, you got the brazen altar where the sacrifice actually go in. All right. So now the 2 parts of the actual tabernacle, the Mishkan itself, all right, the holiest part is a smaller room, basically about 10 cubits, give or take, and you have the Ark of the Covenant with the testimonies in it. Then you have a veil separating that. And then on the when you're facing, and it's situated, west. So when people say rise up and face the east, you actually, the Holy of Holies, when the priest come into place, he's coming in from the eastern part of the tabernacle and entering the holy spot. so he's coming eastward, headed westward. Sound like our diaspora a little bit, huh? but anyway, we and they call Africa the dark continent, but we covered this the opposite way to the west. But he actually come from east of the tabernacle and started to go towards the west. And on the north side of the tabernacle, on the north side of the tabernacle, when he coming from the east, which would be on his right side, would be the table of showbread. And on the south side, coming from the east would be the actual menorah. And then in the middle, west, going towards the west, before he even get to the veil, he got the altar, the golden altar, the altar incense, and there's a lot of other things. I'm going to talk about the items later on, because I know we're going to come back to these parts later. So I want to bring out different points, and in later episodes, especially when we get to YAH and we'll get to Pekel Day. But when we look at the actual measurements, the golden altar is the only thing that's got perfect measurements. It's either 1 cubit this way, 2 cubits that way, and that's it. No halves. All the other the table that the showbread is on, the shulchan is always half, a cubit and a half, this or whatever, 2 cubits and a half this way. The Ark of the Covenant is partial, half, 2 cubits and a half, a cubit and a half, etc. like that. The menorah is the only item we don't have a measurement for. So now, when we talk about the altar, the golden altar, even the brazen altar is so many cubits and a half this way, so many cubits and a half that height, whatever the case is. So they got, the different dimensions, in it. But the golden altar is the only altar, only item that has a perfect measurement in it, no half or anything. And out all the items, the major items that be in the Mishkan, and it's an acronym that they use for the incense that's burned upon there. Now, we always say, oil, when we look at the, Proverbs, oil is, supposed to make you glad and make you shine bright and shiny, and it's to make you, feel good in your heart. But wanted to take the word ketorah. Ketorah is actually the word for incense in Hebrew. So I just wrote down some of the acronyms for it. All right. And it's spelled, it's normally spelled Kuf, Tet, Resh, and Tet, Ketorah, for incense. Now, if we look at it and we say, well, how that relates to us. When you burn incense, usually when you get incense and stuff, you get the ambiance, your main thing is to being prepared to pray. So when you get ready to pray, what you're supposed to be looking for in prayer, what kind of things you're supposed to emulate when you get ready to pray. Definitely want a nice setting, a nice light, gotta be healthy enough. But the main thing, the kuf, as they would say, is for kwadosh, which is holiness. Look for that type of holiness. All right. Then you look for Torah, which is purity. All right. So those are the kind of things you're looking for. And then the next letter, when you're talking about, you want to try to beseech the Creator's mercies, Rachamim. All right. That's what we're trying to beseech. And the last but not least, when we look at it, we used to use the word tikwa, which is hope. A lot of times we say, Petah Tikwa, the door of hope. So now we're talking about Kedoshim, which is holiness, Torah, which is purity, Rachamim, which is mercy, and then Tikwa. We hope that the Creator will answer us. So those are the things I like to, focus on and leave you with in this particular time, in this segment. Not to be so redundant, and be too long. I'll be addressing some of these items again. I know I summarized, like I said, I gave a little summary of some viewpoints in Tetzaweh, and as we move forward in Tetzaweh, which is tomorrow, it'll be some interesting things there, and then we're going to be picking up after that with the tabernacle again, but different expressions is used. So now all this stuff we just read thus far concerning the tabernacle and the priestly garment, Aaron didn't get no information on this yet, or the children of Israel haven't got any information yet. So now we learn that this is some of the stuff that the Creator was talking about while Moses was on the mountain, besides all those laws we read about in Mishpatim. So there's a lot of stuff that Moses was learning and picking up and could not forget while he was on the mountain for those 40 days and 40 nights. And that's why I like to remind brothers and sisters that he didn't delay like the people said. He said, after the Lord had finished talking, then he came on down. He didn't say, hold up. So after God had finished talking, then he come on down. Now, can you imagine? I like that, that expression that God has said all he's going to say for the moment. That's something to think about. The God said all he's going to say for the moment. Yeah, dismiss. And it didn't even say God dismissed him. Because God told him, look at your people already messed up while I was up there. And Moses can't imagine how you messed up, because 40 days and 40 nights seemed like nothing to him, because he didn't drink or smoke. I mean, drink or he didn't drink or eat anything for 40 days and 40 nights. So it seemed like a blink of an eye to him. So he can't imagine that people already messed up that quick. So where time seemed to stand still for him, time was moving on for other people. So with that, I hope you got something out of what I said. Any mistakes from my own, and anything of controversy, just leave a comment and explain the area that I might not express as well, and perhaps I'll do my best to try to get some clarity to it. And with that, once again, I say Shalom Aleichem, Shabbat Shalom, and any mistakes from my own, and thank the D.C.B channel and the brothers that have been allowing me this platform.
Prince, one quick question. So you spoke about the priest's garment for beauty and for splendor, right? So what about for the people that might say, because these are some of the arguments that I've heard, because you said, you should come with your best, you should be with your best, and you explain certain situations as far as like even a judge, or when you went in your time when you graduated, you wore a 3-piece suit, and you said regardless of whatever it is, 3-piece suit, whatever, just come looking, in other words, come and look sharp. So some people will argue in the wilderness, they had the same clothing and the same shoes or sandals or whatever for the 40 years in the wilderness. And did it really have to do with the clothing, or was it more your presentation before God, meaning your cleanliness and whether or not you're clean, and it really doesn't matter unless you just got 100% as the law requires?
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. Now you forced me to go a little bit ahead of things.
Okay, so we could.
But I'm sharing since it's right there, because we were talking about the garments here, right? And the garments actually, enrobe him with splendor. So the tabernacle is outward, external. External. His clothes is internal. The incense is internal. All right. So now, when you talk about the 40 years in wilderness wearing the same clothes, when we left, we was told to get the silver, the gold, and the clothes from the Egyptians on the Exodus. You think we're gonna get the bargain store rags? Or we're gonna get the serious bling? Now, when they built the golden calf and they're trying to make atonement, the Creator told them, come out of those clothes, because you ain't worthy of them now. So that means all that fine stuff you had when you left Egypt, the Creator told them later on they had to be stripped of those particular clothes after the sin of the golden calf. That's showing that you're remorseful and atoning. So what they wore then, and what they left out with at the praise service at Mount Sinai was, purity, royalty. But after the sin of the golden calf, and Moses had to not only destroy the calf and make a drink, he had to tell them to come out those clothes, and that's written in the scripture. So that's why I said I'm going a little bit ahead.
Right. And the next question before you go, I'm going to give you a couple of questions before you go. Now, when the tabernacle was built, right? And this is obviously Moses getting instructions on how to build a tabernacle that was not built yet, but we know that in the future it's going to be built in the wilderness, right? So now when we get to the menorah and the oil for the menorah, how did they get oil continuously for those? I don't know what period of time it took for the tabernacle to be built. If it was a year within them coming out of Egypt, or if it was within the next several years, or if it was in the 40th year, I'm not really sure. But where were they getting the olive oil from? Constantly, if it was in the first year, if they were in the wilderness.
Okay. Now, once you crush the oil lasts indefinitely.
Okay.
Because it said pure crushed oil. Okay. And after olives is the only fruit that you could actually get oil from without cooking it.
Okay.
All right. So olive oil won't ferment. That's number one. All right. Number two, wilderness don't mean desert. Because you read shortly after they left and crossed the Yam Su, come out to Yam Su, they wind up complaining about water and stuff like that. And and then later on they had like 72 palm trees and 12 wells. So we can't just think of desert, arid land. And we got an exact time that the tabernacle was built, which is the 1 year after the departure, a little short of 1 year after the departure. And we know, and from the estimation of time, we know that we calculate the 3 times Moses had to, stand before the Creator. It's 120 days. So roughly around Yom Kippur. So the tabernacle being built, and started work on the tabernacle right after basically Sukkot.
Okay.
And if you figured at the time, and it'd be, to give you about, several months between the 7th month and the 1st month. So you're talking about 5 months roughly. That's all it took for them to get the tabernacle together, about 5 months.
Gotcha.
And we got the exact date when it was dedicated.
Gotcha. Torah Abba. Just maybe some questions, some things that came up, and maybe it will help along before some of these questions will be showing on the
no problem.
The question. So I appreciate you, Nasik. May the Most High God, Creator of heaven and earth, be with you.
All of us.
And shalom, shalom.